This is Energy Quick Chat. I am Justina Okechukwu. Today, we chat with Ayodeji Stephen, Hydrogen Research Fellow at the African Energy Council, and he'll be speaking to me about their most recent white paper on green hydrogen opportunities in Africa. Thank you for sitting with Energy Frontiers for Quick Chat today, Ayodeji. Now, give me a brief overview of this latest publication about hydrogen potentials in Africa.
All right, thank you. So we decided to embark on this project because we were looking at the possibilities of hydrogen in Africa. We understand that a lot of study have been done. However, we wanted to include an African perspective in a way that reflects the situation in Africa. So we basically looked into the abundance of resources in Africa. Then we looked into what these resources mean for the African continent. We looked at policies and also the technical challenges. We did not leave out the impact of the financial capacity that is necessary to establish an African hydrogen economy. So the paper basically just speaks to African leaders, speaks to experts in the clean energy space, and also in the fossil space also, as to the benefits of hydrogen, the impact it could make, and also the challenges that are currently being faced, and gives possible ways to mitigate these challenges.
Now, what opportunities abound in green hydrogen production in terms of exports and international trade?
Oh, okay. So the role of green hydrogen in terms of exports is one that has possibility of creating an impact on the African economy in diverse manners. I mean, take for example, we have hydrogen produced locally in Africa. It means that we can then begin to attract industries from all over the world to begin to come establish themselves in Africa, especially locations where that hydrogen is being produced. And when we talk about exports, we understand that even in medieval times, trade has been a way to assure economic development and expansion. So if we can create our trade routes and then we can organize it so well that we have an intra-trade pathway among African countries, and also one that also helps us to export to places like, Europe, and some places in Asia, then we can have our economy expand, not just in terms of jobs, because that will be creating jobs. The hydrogen economy in itself creates a lot of jobs. It creates jobs for people in the maintenance department, in the production aspect of it, along the entire value chain, right? Now, aside that, it also creates jobs in export for people who understand that. And jobs is one thing that we want a lot of in Africa. We need a lot of jobs for our growing economy and also the youth. So hydrogen creates jobs. It also helps to establish trade routes that can expand the economy, bring in more funds into the economy, because if you're selling, it means that you have more money flowing in, right? And that money can be used to expand the economy in Africa. Much more, we can also begin to now, establish other things in terms of international relations with other countries, because whosoever you are able to provide what they need, then you can also, establish some kind of bilateral agreement that helps your people to do other forms of businesses in their country, and they can come to do business in your own country. I mean, these are just some of the things that hydrogen provides.
Right. So you've spoken about the vast opportunities that are embedded in these in regional routes and all of that. But how can regional and international collaborations be enhanced to develop a sustainable hydrogen economy?
All right. First off, it means that we need to come together in Africa as a whole and begin to systematically develop our own resource. That will mean that heads of government, parliament, and also politicians and policy experts, we have to come together and agree on how that we want to manage our hydrogen economy. One of the ways to do this is we having, a Pan-African dialogue So that Pan-African dialogue will help us to be able to establish a base for the coordination of the hydrogen economy in Africa. And I give kudos to the African Union. I know that the African Union 2063 vision establishes some work around this. However, I believe that much more can be done, especially when it comes to African leaders, creating that bilateral agreement, not just seeking bilateral agreement with countries outside of Africa. We need to first develop that. With this, we can then begin to establish that with those in Europe and also in other parts of the world. One of the things I want to emphasize is that until Africa comes together to develop itself, we would not be able to achieve the kind of expansion and development that we need and we can command in the global space. Hydrogen is one that is now very important in the global economy. However, we need a Pan-African scheme that helps us to develop and domesticate what we have in a way that improves our economy.
Right. Now, what kind of policies are needed to accelerate the deployment of hydrogen technologies for industrialization in Africa?
Okay, so I would say that we first need national policies. One of the things countries can do right now, especially countries that have resources in terms of the hydrogen economy. Take, for example, South Africa has a lot of platinum, which is very important to the production of electrolyzers. Also, we know that all over Africa, majority of African countries have very good amount of sunshine. Places like Egypt have very good wind, and Morocco. Namibia has good amount of sunshine. Those are places that are very important hotspots in the hydrogen economy. So it is important that these countries, first, they establish their own hydrogen roadmap. Once that is on ground, that can be, like a policy guide or a guideline to establishing internal coordinations in Africa. So policies will be ones that also create incentives, create incentives for the production of hydrogen and also the transport and exportation of it, policies that enhance local talent development. In recent times, I was discussing with some of my friends, and we were talking about a local solar power plant that will be established in northern part of Nigeria. That will be the first, that I know, that will produce solar panels. So the plant is, sorry, I apologize for saying solar power plant. It's a plant that will produce solar panels. When I was told about it, obviously not Nigerians are, leading that project. The technical aspect of it. What I said was, if we want this to work, while we are bringing this expert into the country, into the continent, it is important that our government makes a standing agreement that at least 90% of the people employed in that plant must be Nigerians. What this does is that it helps us to build our local talent. Imagine that over the years, we have a lot of machineries that are operated in Africa. But oftentimes we see that we still need to go and bring an expert from somewhere to maybe maintain it for us or repair it when it develops a fault. It means that something is not adding up in our agreements with these international relations. I believe that talent can be sourced from anywhere. I understand that. However, we must also strive to develop our local talents. One of the things I also suggested in something I wrote last year was that, take for example, a country in Africa has resources, but the country does not have enough energy access. So we can make bilateral agreements with maybe a place like China or any country that wants hydrogen imported, that is exported from that African country into their own country. We can make agreements such that, this is what you can do. Give us maybe $10 billion. Now, the $10 billion will not be given back to you in cash. And the $10 billion is not a loan. The $10 billion is an investment such that we will build solar panels, solar mini grids all over our country, or we build dams something that just helps us to increase our energy access. And the excess from that will be used for the production of hydrogen, and they will be given priority in terms of exportation. This way, we are setting up policies that develops us first and also meet the needs of those that need it. So we can have a 10 years plan. And in this 10 years plan, we've already set up policies that, it's a win-win for every party involved.
Right. So that was interesting. So what is the future of hydrogen in Africa and the expected impact on the continent's economic development?
Well, the future of hydrogen in Africa, first, I will speak from the technical aspect. I believe that green hydrogen will thrive. However, I will say that Africa must not neglect blue hydrogen. We have a lot of gas. I'm a Nigerian, where it is well known that Nigeria has a lot of crude oil. Our gas is almost 3 times our crude oil, right? Maybe it's our petroleum now. So it means that we must make use of our gas. So I'm speaking from the technical aspect. In terms of the future, maybe say in the economics and everything, and also in terms of decarbonization, hydrogen is going to... Science has shown us that hydrogen has the potential to help decarbonize and to abate emissions. Now, based on scenario analysis that have been conducted, we see that from the year 2030 upward, there will be a lot of steel production, because it is expected that from 2030 upward, there will be intense industrialization in Africa. So there will be a lot of steel production, there will be a lot in the use of chemicals, and there will be an increase in in traveling, right? There will be a lot of migration between countries, especially in Africa, in terms of trade and other things that are necessary, right? So I think that one of the things that we must do to also partake effectively in the future of hydrogen in Africa is that we must begin to look into how that we can establish hydrogen, domesticate it such that we can make use of hydrogen, especially for our transport, right? I believe that hydrogen will power our transport. One of the projects of like I mentioned earlier, the African Union, the 2063 vision, is to create a Pan-African railway line that will cut across some region of Africa. Now, I believe that we should not let the railway depend on coal or maybe fossil fuels. We should plan it such that it can make use of gas or even hydrogen, right? And also it will create jobs, right? It will create jobs, create a lot of jobs, create a lot of bilateral agreement, help us decarbonize several aspects of our economy and improve the economic outlook of Africa. I believe that hydrogen has come to stay, and I believe that it will bring Africa a lot of fortune for those that get involved now.
Interesting report you have put together, and thank you so much for speaking with us on Energy Frontiers. Ayodeji Stephen, Hydrogen Research Fellow at the African Energy Council. That's it on our Energy Quick Chat this week. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you next time.